It was just after sunset when the rumble of motorcycles echoed through the dusty town. The air smelled of gasoline and leather, and the name Hell's Angels painted on the red metal clubhouse warned everyone to stay away. No one dared approach that place unless they had business worth risking their life for. But that evening, a sound broke the usual silence outside the clubhouse gate, a soft, trembling knock. When the heavy door creaked open, the last thing anyone expected to see was a tiny girl in a pink dress clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Her eyes were wide, scared but determined. She looked up at the towering man covered in tattoos and whispered, They beat my mama. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected heroes, please like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel to support stories that remind us the world still has good hearts hiding in rough places. Inside the clubhouse, the atmosphere froze. Men who were feared by everyone in town, bikers with scars, tattoos and heavy leather, stood silently, unsure how to react. They were used to fights, not fragile innocence. The man at the door, a broad-shouldered biker named Ryder, knelt down to her level. His arms were covered in ink, the face of a woman tattooed on one bicep, and fire-like patterns wrapping his forearms. He saw something in the girl's tearful eyes that pierced right through his hardened soul, a kind of fear he knew too well. The little girl's voice shook as she spoke again. They hurt my mama, and she can't get up. She held out her teddy bear like it could explain everything she couldn't. Ryder didn't ask questions. He just picked up his helmet, told the others to follow, and walked out into the fading light. Behind him, a convoy of motorcycles roared to life. The people of the small town peeked through curtains, wondering what trouble was coming next. But this time, the Hell's Angels weren't riding for chaos. They were riding for a child. They followed the little girl's directions down an old dirt road to a broken trailer at the edge of town. The door hung loose, and there was shattered glass near the steps. Inside, they found a woman lying on the floor, barely conscious, her face bruised and blood on her shirt. Ryder's chest tightened. He recognized that kind of pain, the kind that came from the hands of cowards. The girl knelt beside her mother, clutching her hand and sobbing, "Mama!" They came to help. Ryder barked orders to his crew. One of the bikers, a former medic, checked the woman's pulse, while another called for an ambulance. But before help could arrive, Ryder noticed something: deep boot prints near the doorway, leading away from the trailer. Someone had done this recently and fled. The fury inside him was quiet but deadly. He looked back at the little girl, who watched him with eyes full of hope and trust, and made a silent promise: whoever did this would never hurt them again. As the ambulance carried the woman away, the bikers followed close behind. At the hospital, the doctors said the woman had several broken ribs and would need time to heal, but she would survive. The girl, whose name was Lila, sat in the waiting room clutching her teddy bear, too scared to speak. Ryder sat beside her, unsure how to comfort her, until she looked up and said softly, "Are you angels?" He smiled for the first time in years, a rough, tired smile. "Something like that, kid." Over the next few days, the bikers took turns watching over Lila while her mother recovered. They brought food, cleaned up the trailer, and even fixed the broken door. Ryder discovered that the woman, Hannah, had been running from her abusive boyfriend, a man with a criminal record who had found her again. When he learned that, Ryder's blood boiled. He knew that kind of man all too well, and he wasn't about to let him roam free. One night, as the sun dipped low, the same rumble of motorcycles echoed again. But this time, it wasn't a ride of rescue, it was a ride of justice. They tracked the man down at a rundown bar miles away. Ryder didn't need to say much. When the coward saw the angels walk in, his face turned pale. No fists were thrown that night. No words were needed. Ryder simply looked him dead in the eyes and said, "If you ever go near them again, we'll find you. And next time, you won't walk away." The man fled the town that night and never came back. Meanwhile, Lila became a familiar face at the clubhouse. The once feared bikers softened every time she ran around the lot, waving her teddy bear and laughing. She would sit on Ryder's motorcycle, pretending to drive while he fixed the engine. For the first time in years, that dark metal building wasn't just a hideout for lost men. It became a place of protection, a reminder that even the roughest hearts can still care deeply. When Hannah was finally discharged from the hospital, she came to thank them in person. She was fragile but strong, standing before the men everyone feared and whispering, "You saved my life." The clubhouse, usually filled with roaring laughter and the sound of engines, went silent. Ryder simply nodded and said, "No, ma'am. Your little girl did. She's the bravest one here." Tears rolled down Hannah's cheeks as she hugged her daughter, who smiled shyly and looked at Ryder as if he was some kind of hero. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between them only grew stronger. Ryder, who had once lost his own family years ago, found a sense of purpose again through Lila's laughter. The woman tattooed on his arm, his late wife, seemed to watch over them with every sunrise. Some said the angels had gone soft, but the truth was, they had just remembered what it meant to be human. One evening, as the sun set behind the clubhouse, Ryder knelt down beside Lila once more. She handed him her teddy bear and said, "You can keep him till Mama gets better." He took it carefully, like it was something sacred, for the first time. In years, he felt peace. In that small act, all his regrets, his anger, and his pain melted away. That night, as the lights inside the clubhouse flickered softly, a new sign hung beneath the old Hells Angels emblem. It read, "Home is not where you live, it's who stands by you when the world falls apart." From that day forward, no one in town ever looked at the Hells Angels the same way again. They weren't just bikers anymore. They were protectors, unlikely guardians born from the ashes of broken lives. And as for little Lila, she grew up never forgetting the day she knocked on that red door and found angels wearing leather and scars instead of wings. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's remind the world that compassion can come from the most unexpected souls. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe people can truly change when given a reason to love again?